I will come again and receive you to myself. We which are alive and remain shall be caught up. First, let's consider the three primary pillars of the Pre-Trib Rapture. Pillar 1. The rapture happens before the second coming. Pillar 2. Those who miss the rapture will have a second chance during the 7 years of tribulation to be saved. Pillar 3. The church will escape the tribulation and will not have to face the Antichrist and the mark of the beast. Before we go any further, what if I were to tell you that there was 3 logical alternatives? Alternative 1. The rapture happens at the second coming. Alternative 2. Those who aren't ready for Christ's second coming will have no second chance to be saved. And alternative 3. The church will go through the earth's final period of tribulation, and therefore must overcome the Antichrist and the mark in order to be ready for Christ's second coming. Let's take a closer look at Pillar 1. What does the Bible really say? 1 Thessalonians 4, 15 through 17. A simple comparison of verse 17 with verse 15, which says, "We which are alive will remain to the coming of the Lord," makes it very clear that believers will be caught up at the coming of the Lord. Here's the key issue: which coming of the Lord? Option 1, an invisible and silent coming of the Lord, or option 2, Christ's second glorious return. When we say this, we base it on the Lord's own words. We who remain alive when the Lord comes will certainly not take precedence over those who have died, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a rousing cry, with a call from one of the ruling angels, and with God's shofar. Those who died united with the Messiah will be the first to rise. Then we who are left still alive will be caught up with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and thus we will always be with the Lord. So encourage each other with these words. The description: there's a rousing cry, there's a voice from an archangel call out, there's a trumpet. The full picture: 1 Thessalonians 4:16 is considered one of the noisiest verses in the Bible. There is nothing about vanishing Christians. Caught up does not mean to disappear without a trace. Jesus Christ was also taken up in full view of his disciples while they beheld him. He didn't disappear leaving his clothes on the ground. But you have no need to have anything written to you, brothers, about the times and dates when this will happen, because you yourselves well know that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. When people are saying everything's so peaceful and secure, then sudden destruction will suddenly come upon them, the way labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and there is no way they will escape. But you, brothers, are not in the dark, so that the day should take you by surprise like a thief, for you are all people who belong to the light, who belong to the day. Let's take a moment to slow down and take a deeper look at this. The description: this day of the Lord will arrive like a thief in the night. Jesus' coming as a thief in the night does not mean he will come quietly and invisibly to steal believers out of this world. Rather, he will come unexpectedly, bringing sudden destruction upon the unsaved, the way labor pains come upon a pregnant woman. The full picture: Jesus' coming is not a secret coming, but a sudden one. What about the unprepared being given a second chance to be saved? Paul clearly answered, there is no way they will escape. The takeaway: upon the closest examination, the most widely quoted passage in the Bible used to support the left-behind idea of a silent return of Jesus, of vanishing Christians, and of people being given a second chance during a subsequent period of tribulation, doesn't really say this at all. However, the day of the Lord will come like a thief. On that day the heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will melt and disintegrate, and the earth and everything in it will be burned up. The description: again, this event is called the day of the Lord, and it will come like a thief in the night. The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will melt and disintegrate, the earth and everything in it will be burned up. The full picture: according to Peter, the return of Jesus as a thief is not a silent and secret event before a 7-year tribulation. This day arrives suddenly with a roar and is clearly associated with the end of the world. When we say this, we base it on the Lord's own word. We who remain alive when the Lord comes will certainly not take precedence for those who have died, In order to understand this verse, we need to understand the context. The Greek word parousia used by Paul in 1 Thessalonians is also used in an apocalyptic message given by Jesus in Matthew 24. When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the Talmudim came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will these things happen? And what will be the sign that you are coming, parousia, and that the Olam Hazeh is ending?" The disciples associated this coming, parousia, with the end of the world, and they were anxious to know more about it. Jesus responds, "Don't be deceived. Take heed that no man deceive you." This clearly implies that when it comes to this exact topic, the parousia of Jesus Christ and the end of the world, there will be great deceptions. This is so important that Jesus warned, "Don't be deceived," 4 times. In Matthew 24:4, in Matthew 24:5, in Matthew 24:11, and in Matthew 24:24. At that time, if someone says to you, "Look, here's the Messiah," or "There he is," don't believe him. For there will appear false messiahs and false prophets performing great miracles, amazing things, so as to deceive even the chosen, if possible. There, I've told you in advance. So if people say to you, "Listen, he's out in the desert," don't go. Or, "Look, he's hidden away in a secret room," don't believe it. For when the Son of Man does come, it will be like lightning that flashes out of the east and fills the sky to the western horizon. Jesus warned that Satan's delusions will eventually become so subtle and convincing that only the chosen will come through unscathed. Who are the chosen? Based on the context, they are a group of people who know Jesus Christ and his word so well that the devil can't mislead them. Jesus makes a sharp contrast between false views of his return and the truth. He explicitly warns some will say his coming will be in secret. Pillar 1. So what does the Bible really say? Major cracks are forming. The evidence used to support the first pillar doesn't stand up to scrutiny. At which coming of the Lord? Clearly, at Christ's second glorious return. Now let's take a look at Pillar 2. Those that miss the rapture will have a second chance during the 7 years of tribulation. Matthew 24:40-41. Then there will be 2 men in a field, one will be taken and the other left behind. There will be 2 women grinding flour at the mill, one will be taken and the other left behind. This passage is often quoted to mean that those left behind will be left to go through the 7 years of tribulation. Let's take a closer look at the context. But immediately, following the troubles of those times, the sun will grow dark, the moon will stop shining, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky. All the tribes of the land will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with tremendous power and glory. He will send out his angels with a great shofar, and they will gather together his chosen people from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. But when that day and hour will come, no one knows, not the angels in heaven, not the Son, only the Father. For the Son of Man's coming will be just as it was in the days of Noah. Back then, before the flood, people went on eating and drinking, taking wives and becoming wives, right up till the day Noah entered the ark. And they didn't know what was happening until the flood came and swept them all away. It will be just like that when the Son of Man comes, parousia. Then there will be 2 men in a field. One will be taken and the other left behind. There will be 2 women grinding flour at the mill. One will be taken and the other left behind. So stay alert, because you don't know on what day your Lord will come. Jesus parallels his return with a sudden destruction in Noah's day. Immediately after the word parousia, in verse 39, Jesus continues, "Then there will be 2 men in the field. One will be taken and the other left behind." This is the second most used passage to support the left behind idea of a silent rapture prior to the tribulation. But based on the preceding verses, the context is actually referring to Jesus' second coming. Did Noah and his family vanish before the flood? Were those left behind after the door of the ark was shut have a second chance? What happened to them? It will be just like that when the Son of Man comes. What about the rapture taking place in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye? This is the third most used verse to support the idea of vanishing Christians prior to the tribulation. Look, I will tell you a secret. Not all of us will die, but we will be changed. It will take a moment, the blink of an eye, at the final shofar. For the shofar will sound, and the dead will be raised to live forever, and we too will be changed. Let's take a deeper look at this verse. The description. Is Paul saying that we will vanish prior to the tribulation in the blink of an eye? No. He's saying the dead will be raised, and our bodies will be changed in a moment in the blink of an eye. When does this happen? At the last shofar. The full picture. The rapture happening here takes place on the last shofar, at the end of the tribulation. That is, at the end of the world. There are no second chances. So let's go back to Pillar 2. Upon the closest examination of the passages used to support the teachings of the Pre-Trib Rapture, the evidence of the verses in their context actually teach the opposite. This idea is dangerous. Some might rationalize that if the rapture happens, then God is real, and even though it'll be hard, they can still resist the mark of the beast. It's easy to see how some might adopt this wait-and-see position and put off their decision to live for Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, for those that hold this view, Pillar 2 is built on a lie. If Pillars 1 and 2 are wrong, and if the logical alternatives are correct, then this means that the church of today will have to go through the Great Tribulation. Many Christians resist this conclusion and argue that God wouldn't allow us to go through the tribulation because he loves us too much. But think about it. Does God love us more than Christians suffering persecution today? No. Does he love us more than the believers after the rapture? Obviously not. Is it possible that the doctrine of escaping tribulation is really only catering to our Western middle-class lifestyle? The truth is that many Christians are afraid to die for their faith. We are promised only tribulation. Acts 14:22, 2 Thessalonians 1:4, Revelation 1:9, Revelation 2:9, Revelation 2:10, Matthew 16:24-25. In light of these scriptures, the idea of Christians escaping tribulation seems like a fantasy. Some might say yes, but those verses are talking about tribulation, not the tribulation. But if the majority of the Bible's tribulation texts refer to what believers go through, why would the Bible suddenly shift gears by teaching that the tribulation is something we won't go through? Then he told them, peoples will fight each other, nations will fight each other. There will be great earthquakes, there will be epidemics and famines in various places, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they will arrest you and persecute you, handing you over to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors. This will be on account of me, but it will prove an opportunity for you to bear witness. So make up your minds not to worry, rehearsing your defense beforehand. For I myself will give you an eloquence and a wisdom that no adversary will be able to resist or refute. You will be betrayed, even by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends. Some of you they will have put to death, and everyone will hate you because of me. But not a hair of your head will be lost. By standing firm, you will save your lives. I have said these things to you so that united with me, you may have shalom. In this world, you will have tribulation, but be brave, I have conquered the world. Do not be afraid, be bold in your faith. There is no greater honor than to be persecuted and to die for your Lord.